Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, I see the judge. Judge, I can't see you. Can you hear me? And I can't hear you either. Okay. I can't see or hear you. Well, I just feel I don't. You know what? I don't feel no kind of way. Because if I'm feeling any kind of way right now, it's my fault. And you know why it's my fault? Because I keep saying I need to upgrade my audio, and I have not done that. There are things that I need to purchase, and I have not purchased it yet. So when I start the show, when I do my lives, even sometimes pre-record and stuff is not running the way I want it to run, I can't be mad at no one but myself. Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, but we see your floor.
I know I'm trying to flip it around. It won't flip around. Hold on, I'm working on it.
Okay. I just put you backstage until you able to fix it. Hi guys. Happy Monday. Man up Monday. Politics Monday. Because you know we talk about politics on a Monday. Hi everybody. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into the show. Like, share, 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 share. And I have a goal. If you have a question or a comment, please send it in via super chat. Hi, Sylvia. Hello. Black Cuddy, Martin. Hi, guys. Minging on X. Shout out to everybody on X. Let's see here. All right. Portrait customers coming soon. Layout customers only. Oh, okay. That's why. All right. So, topics. House of Mexico. Mexico's in crisis, honey. And this is why I don't be ready to get up and go to vacation in Mexico. I have been to Mexico City. Mexico is a beautiful country, but that cartel, honey, makes that country horrible. So they killed the head honcho of the head of the cartel, El Mencho, and now they are threatening to kidnap Americans. Is reports that some Americans are already kidnapped. They done shut down the airports. They are tearing stuff up and killing the military and the local police in 3 states. So, yeah, we're gonna talk about that. We gotta talk about Fulton County crises. Yes, honey, we gonna ride on Fulton County ass, on Fannie Willis ass longer, a little while longer till someone's in handcuffs because I wanna play some of the Georgia election board meeting. Because when you look, even though these things are boring and drawn out, but I have the clips, these people are telling you firsthand what's going on. So when you get the news reports or you hear Fannie Willis or Rob Pitts or whoever saying, no, we're not doing nothing wrong, they're lying. They're lying, lying, lying. Of course, we got to talk about Trump tariffs. SCOTUS was like, slow down, even though it wasn't a flat out no. But again, those are media headlines. He lost in Supreme Court over the tariffs. And technically, no, but of course, we have the judge here to break that down. I do want to sprinkle in some Newsom trying to pander the black people by insulting them. But see, the liberals, especially the white liberals, they have a habit of doing that. The white and Hispanic liberals. And of course, the monologue I want to start off with if the BAFTA, BAFTA awards. Honey, with Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Leroy. I keep tearing up that man's name. I'm so sorry. But I am going to play the clip. Let me see if I can gear that up. And I was trying to see if I had the longer version of that clip with the Tourette syndrome person. Let's see. No, everything got like the 9 second. Is this it? No. Damn Paddington. Um, so yeah, so we're gonna have a good show. So please, everybody. Oh, here we go. This is a better one. Please like, share, get into the comment section. Let me close this patio door because we got snow out here. And my father just went outside to start. Hold on for a second, Judge. Okay, so if y'all hear any noise in the background, that's the snow blower outside. How you doing, Judge? How are you?
I'll manage at least in a mad rush.
Yeah, you booked and busy, honey.
Yeah, I have an announcement. I just got informed by our local election commission that I qualified for the ballot for the GOP primary for the position of Shelby County mayor. That's where Memphis is located. So we'll see what happens. That's in May.
Okay, the election is in May.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are at least two candidates on this primary, and both of us are black. So it is what it is. That's a change for the GOP.
Yeah, well, when you get that website, send it over to me so we could start promoting it and people could donate and stuff like that and help get the word out.
Yes, and I'm also helping out Charlotte Bergman, who is a sister who is the Republican candidate for U.S. Congress in the ninth district. Her opponent's been in 20 years. He's a Democrat, but the entire time that he's been in, all he's done is introduced a bill that's saying the congressional cafeteria has to use paper straws. That's all he's done. And it's interesting. He's white, Jewish, and gay, and he represents a 70+% black district, which is, you know, interesting.
Yeah, well, listen, there are a lot of black Republicans running for office, and I want to continue to highlight them as well. So I think that's a good thing. That's a great thing. So hopefully you win, but again, get that website up so we could start promoting so people could really get out there and
Yeah.
support and donate money. All right, so let's get into it, right? This is something brief before we get into Mexico. I want to highlight this first. So yesterday in Britain, they have the BAFTA awards. I don't know what it means, but it's Britain award something something. And during the award ceremony, the two characters from the movie Sinners were presenting, and apparently somebody heckled from the crowd the N word, and then they said, "Oh, this man has Tourette's. He didn't mean it." So let me just play this clip here.
BAFTA and the BBC have apologised after a person with Tourette syndrome shouted a racial slur during the British Academy Film Awards.
Good evening.
It could be heard as Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were presenting the Visual Effects Award. Host Alan Cumming had earlier told the audience that a guest at the ceremony was John Davidson, a Scottish campaigner for people with Tourette's who inspired the BAFTA-nominated film I Swear.
You may have heard some strong and offensive language tonight.
Cumming apologised, telling the audience the outburst came from involuntary tics associated with the neurological condition. The BBC also apologised for the strong and offensive language, saying it was not intentional.
Robert Aramayo from I Swear.
I Swear won 2 BAFTAs, including Best Actor for Robert Aramayo, who plays Davidson.
John Davidson is the most remarkable man I've ever met. He's so forthcoming with education that he believes there's still so much more that we need to learn about Tourette's. And tonight, especially, I just want to say that for people living with Tourette's, it's us around them that help define what their experience is. So to quote the film, they need support and understanding. Thank you so much for this. It means the world to me. I can't believe that. Thank you.
All right, so I want to play the actual clip of what
May I
how.
make a brief comment? I keep telling people, and this is a cover up here. I understand Tourette syndrome. It's
Well, can I
bad,
play? Let me
but
play the
it's
clip
what you
first.
think,
Let
not
me,
necessarily what you say.
all right, let me play this clip.
Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making. We're here to celebrate. Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
Yeah, well, it was on the guy's mind. Tourette's kept him from being able to resist the urge. But I keep telling folk is what people think. There's nothing you can do about it, but the far left is all freaked out about somebody saying something. And it's like, okay,
So basically,
people
what
think
so what
stuff.
so what
Yeah, you know.
so basically what you're saying is Tourette's is it's the impulsive urge to say what's in your head.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting. I like it, because that's what somebody's thinking. That's what all of those silent but polite types have on their mind. So,
It's
you
not
know,
funny, but it's just like, you know why I'm laughing? He was being himself and he was being honest and not being phony, smiling. Oh my God, congratulations. I like you. I love you. You're so wonderful. But then you're looking at this person in your mind as the N word. And then
yeah. And
people come up
it's,
explaining and giving an excuse. So we have to support the people with Tourette's because they don't know what they're doing. No, they know.
yeah, it's like, see, there are people with poor impulse control. Tourette syndrome folk have very low impulse control when it comes to language. Now, this is the point. They get all off into hate crime speech. But you can sit there and penalize what somebody says, but that doesn't keep them from thinking it. When they think it or feel it or get driven by it, they're going to do what they're going to do. And there's not anything you can do about it because even if they can't do it directly, they'll undercut you indirectly. And the problem with hate speech is when you start dealing with First Amendment restrictions, it comes back and bites you. Like, the most interesting one that I laugh about all the time is Don Lemon gets busted under the FACE Act, which his side of the aisle, meaning the far left, came up with some years ago to destroy the opportunities of the people who are anti abortion to protest. So, cameras stuck up in people's faces, exposing them for going in to get it. All of that was wiped out by the FACE Act and made illegal. Now here's Don Lemon, Lemon Booty Boy from formerly of CNN, Crying Negro Network. He gets in there and he's not just reporting based on what we carried it before he got arrested or charged or anything. And I said, they're going to get him because he got way out of line when it got to the point where he's not just reporting, he's not just there recording, he's participating. And you can't do that. And that's the FACE Act that his side came up with. See, it bit him.
Right, right. And so again, but that's here in the US. Over there in Britain, we can say that was, I don't want to say the creation of, you could say, white supremacy, but listen, it is what it is. And so I'm not surprised. I could laugh because yeah, it's an award show. You have two prominent black men presenting, and what's on your white mind, the only thing you could see is two niggas standing there.
Well, I'm not going to say the word. I'll just say Negro. But anyway, see, Great Britain is where we get our system. But the difference between Great Britain and the United States is that if you live in Britain, you are a subject. You're not a citizen. In the United States, you're a citizen. If you live in Canada, you are a subject. In other words, your sovereign is not you. Your sovereign is the monarchy.
Right,
Here, the sovereign is the people as a collective whole. And that makes a big difference because you basically belong to the king or to the queen.
right. Well, listen, and shout out to the USA hockey team for winning the gold in the Winter Olympics yesterday. That was the first time we won gold in 46 years. The last time was in 1980 against the Soviet Union. So, listen, shout out to them. That was a great game. Great display of showmanship. And yeah, go USA. Um,
Rah, rah, rah.
so honey, let's go to Mexico.
Mexico. You want to
Child.
play your clip first, or you want a brief little opening with what I would say about it before you get into it
Let me just
to set
do
the
yeah,
stage?
let me just set the stage. So due to ongoing security operations and related road blockage and criminal activity, U.S. citizens in the following locations should shelter in place until further notice. Jalisco State, that includes Puerto Vallarta and Chapala and Guadalupe, Harara, Ta, Tamaulipas State.
Don't worry about it.
I
Take
know.
it, read it.
So anyway, why are they still under the shelter in place? Because the Mexican military killed El Mencho, who was the head of the cartel, and the cartel went apeshit on local authorities and retaliating against local authorities and the Mexican military, and they are threatening to kidnap and execute American citizens who are tourists there. They shut down airports so you can't get out. And now, the US Embassy, this US State Department is basically telling the US citizens shelter in, contact people here in the States, let them know where you're at, don't go anywhere. It's a mess. Let's see if
A
I have.
lot of people make an assumption that everywhere else in the world operates like the United States, and they don't understand what they have going living here because a lot of places don't. I tell that story sometimes about being in line for a train and stepping out to see how fast the line was moving and stepping on a dotted line and having to put my hands up and say, oh, hell, I heard the rounds chambering in the Kalishnikovs. And I had to say, I'm a dumb American. I didn't realize. And they let me go. I even got my train. But anyway, life in the rest of the world is not the same as living in the United States, and people will kill you elsewhere. So, America, there you go. But there's something more important. We are resetting things because of something poisonous that previous administrations are responsible for. And it goes back a long way. To fight communism and to raise the money, we came up with a bright idea that was just absolutely horrendous about encouraging the purveyance of drugs so that money can be raised to fight commies. Prior to that, we had been pushing drugs to get tea. I won't drink the stuff because of the connection with heavy narcotics. 200 some years ago, the United States, Great Britain, France, and Japan came up with the bright idea that if they produced opium in northern India, which is now Afghanistan, and if you produced the opium there, took it to Japan, to China, addicted a lot of Chinese, you could sell the opium for gold and turn right around and hand the gold over to the Chinese for tea. That's the clipper ship, famous fast sailing ships. You sailed opium to China and brought tea back, and it was really poisonous. But we have been doing that, and then it switched over to not fighting commies but fighting terrorists, and that's how they raised the money for black ops. But selling drugs and the whole 9 yards of what that sets up is a poisonous thing that is going to bite you, and it was. And it's time that we press the reset button, return to the default setting and got rid of that. So it's like an enema is needed. And when somebody starts giving an enema out, and passing out the laxative before you do that, something gets to squirting and it doesn't smell well and it's not pleasant. And that's what you're running into. These people are saying, hey, all of these Americans, this la-di-da, come over here. And you set this up. You let us be enabled years and years ago, 70 some years ago. And now we do what we do. So you're paying the cost, trying to be the boss. Come back in if you can.
Right. I want to play this clip here. This is Fox News talking about, the president and the state of the cartels and stuff there.
The president of Mexico is furious. She's calling Mexican Senator Lily Tellez a traitor for coming on Fox Noticias with me a few days ago and saying this. Listen.
The help from the United States to fight the cartels in Mexico is absolutely welcome, and that is how the majority of Mexicans feel. The only ones who don't like that President Trump is sending help and trying to support Mexicans against the cartels are the narco politicians. That includes President Sheinbaum.
That's
Mexican
what they
President
said when she
Sheinbaum
was
responding,
running.
saying, quote, "It's not a minor issue that a senator gave an interview to a foreign media outlet calling for intervention." Here to discuss is that Mexican Senator Lily Tellez. Senator Tellez, welcome to Fox Noticias. I'm just going to get right to it. Is Mexico a narco state?
Yes, it is. And we all Mexicans know about it. And Mexicans are afraid of the alliance between the Mexican government and the cartels that have infested our nation.
Can you explain this alliance between the president, her party, the Morena party, and the cartels?
Yes, the party has financed, has given, the cartels have given so much money to these politicians, narco politicians of Morena, to get into office, to get the power. So they protect. The Mexican government protects the cartels. That is why President Sheinbaum doesn't want the strong American leadership to help Mexico defeat the cartels. And also Sheinbaum doesn't want the rest of the world to know what is happening here in Mexico. We are on the steps to be the next Venezuela. She is aligned with Venezuela's dictator, with Cuba, and we are losing our country. They have destroyed our Republican institutions, the democratic state, and we must, I think we all Mexicans want and welcome the support of the United States to assist Mexican people against the cartels that have us all in this crisis with the traffic in fentanyl and migrants.
So her response to this, and I know this because her spokesperson came on our show in response to your interview, and they say, well, we just turned over 26 cartel members. We're working, we're sharing intelligence. What are they not doing? And why is she so resistant? She sort of speaks out of two sides of her mouth. We're working with you, Trump, and then she's chastising you for saying we need more help from the United States to crush the cartels.
Because she really doesn't want the help of the United States. She is lying to Mexican people, telling Mexican people that the United States will get in control of the whole country.
Right.
I never listened such nonsense from President Trump. What we have listened is that President Trump wants to help Mexican people against the cartels. Mexican people are suffering. So what they do is very, very little. We have huge narco politicians here in the Senate, in the presidents, governors. Mexico is a very dangerous place.
Well, that brings me to my next question, because you are speaking very bluntly, very clearly about Mexico being a narco state and the alliance and the connections to the president of Mexico. Are you afraid for your life?
Yes, I am afraid. And the president has threatened me to proceed against me with criminal prosecution, to get me out of the Senate and get me in jail, just because I told you in this space and Fox News what is the reality of our country with the cartels. The cartels are dominating everything here in Mexico. They are in all the offices of the government, in the states, in the cities, and in the national government. So, of course, I am afraid, but I want people to know I will not step back. And I pray under God's guidance that we, the United States and Mexico, must work together to defeat the cartels and to get freedom for our country, for Mexico, to stop it from being the next Venezuela.
Senator Lily Reyes, a very brave woman indeed. Thank you so much for coming on our show and speaking the truth.
Thank you.
Actually, she sounds like she's talking about the Democrats here in the United States. It's like this thing where all of the Democrats, from Chicago's mayor to Walt's boy up in Minnesota, the governor, they're in Newsom, they're all horrified at Trump trying to impose fascism on the United States. Well, I haven't talked to anybody here in Shelby County where the National Guard has come in who is against the National Guard being here, but Democratic Party officials, because this was the most violent city in the United States, the 10th most violent city in the world by any metric. And to listen to people advocate to continue to push death and theft on the streets or in the urban areas or in a country like she's talking about is absolutely absurd. They are unable to bestow public peace, dignity, and order because too many of them have been bought off, paid off, and owned by the criminal elements.
Right.
Now, look at Waltz. I would guarantee you that if you got deep into what's going on in Minnesota, you will find that there are a whole lot of Minnesota officials who are elected and appointed, perhaps all the way up there to where Waltz is, perhaps, who have been getting money on the side. And then it interferes directly with American security because now we find that several $100 million have been funneled to ISIS and Al Qaeda or their affiliated organizations from money that came from the child care funds that were wrongfully appropriated to Somalis. Now, and by the way, take a look at those Somalis and then go dig a little and take a look at the video footage of Somalians from Black Hawk Down era. And you see everybody's dark skinned, but all these folk look high yellow, like I can talk, but I can. And they look like.
Oh, God. I don't know what happened. If you can hear me, we can't hear you or see you, Judge. You're still on the screen. Somebody must have called him.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I sent you a text, dear, saying, please, I'm trying to do this podcast. Look at the text. I don't look at text. I know you do. Please do. I said, if you needed to get me for something, just send me a text. But anyway, no, I don't. They do deliver when you're getting a TV. Did you hear him talking about it? I asked him about it. He said, yeah, they do delivery.
Judge, we
They
can
don't?
hear you.
Well, what was he talking about?
Sure. All right.
Well, ask him. I don't know anybody with a.
What the fuck, yo? I hate when this bitch knows he doing a live and she did that shit on purpose. A raggedy asshole at that. Yeah, I don't care. Hello?
Oh, man.
He can't hear me because the bitch is calling him.
Can
Wait, sorry.
you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can, but every
Yeah,
time,
she knew. This is the thing. She knew you were doing a fucking show,
yes.
but she did that shit on purpose.
Who
But
did
that's all
what
right.
on purpose?
No, and let's just go ahead. What was you saying?
Who did what on purpose?
No, no, just go ahead. Go ahead. What was you
No,
saying?
I'm just
What was you
saying it
saying?
happens anytime something critical comes up. What I was saying is anytime you get this thing where there is ridiculous misappropriation of public funds on an endemic scale, like you see in Minnesota, California, or Tennessee, or other places, or Georgia, you can guarantee that both elected and appointed officials are getting money under the table about it, or even wide open through some little cut corner situations. And what we find from the intelligence gathering side of things is that several $100 million of misappropriated Minnesotan child care money has been channeled to ISIS and Al Qaeda. And why is that? That's helping out our mortal enemies who want to kill us. And then you have simultaneously in your little greedy scheme to keep control of Congress and not lose at least 6 congressional seats, you have opened up the borders and allowed in Al Qaeda and ISIS and Hamas and Iran and North Korea and China, who were sworn enemies of ours, to come in here and get in place by being transported at government expense to get Ubers that the government had paid for and plant their military grade explosives wherever they needed them with sophisticated detonators and detonation devices. And it's too late now to do anything about that other than intensively going out and trying to find out where this stuff is, taking people into custody who aren't even supposed to be here, interrogating them vigorously, and finding out where these devices have been planted. But Waltz and company and Newsom and Johnson in Chicago, they're saying, oh my God, no, we got to get rid of ICE. But ICE is trying to stop another 911 from happening. If this one goes down, it'll make the first one look like Pearl Harbor compared to some of the battles that followed in World War II. Now, that's what is going to happen, and that is a mess.
So Bernie Moreno, he is the senator here in Ohio. He says there are troubling reports coming out of Puerto Vallarta and other parts of Mexico that narco terrorists are hunting down American citizens. The drug cartel should be aware that if any American citizen is harmed in Mexico, there will be violent and terminal retribution from the U.S. Any U.S. MACA negotiation should cease until the situation is resolved. For any Ohioans stuck in Mexico, reach out to my office at 614-469-2083. So, what if there are American citizens kidnapped? Because
What do
we
you think is happening? Wait a minute. All the Mexican cartels have tens of thousands of their people who came or walked across the border almost like they got a VIP invitation and a red carpet. You're listening to the stuff that the media is letting you hear about what's going on down in Mexico. They don't need to go kidnap American citizens in Mexico. They can kill them up here in the United States because these idiots in the Biden Harris administration let them in free of charge with a red carpet invitation. And that's what the situation is.
so you
We've got a highly dangerous situation.
hmm
So
So
they want people to pay. Look what the Mexicans are going to do down there to American citizens. Yeah, but the big story is what are they going to do up here in the United States? Because there are thousands of members of these cartels who have insulated themselves in American society, in American neighborhoods, in American apartment complexes, because of this inept selfishness by the Biden-Harris administration trying to keep the Democratic Party from losing representation in
But
the
here's the
House at
thing,
all
though.
cost.
But here's the thing: there have been people, people from Mexico crossing the border throughout the decades. That's nothing new, as far even with the cartel.
Not like this. They at least had to go through customs. They
But
at least had to be checked. We have always had a border patrol and then ICE trying to cut down on illegal immigration. This isn't anything racist or xenophobic about
no,
saying go through, follow the rules.
but the open border under the Biden administration, the majority was everybody else. The majority of people coming over wasn't really Mexicans. They were going through Mexico. They were coming from everywhere else. But here's the
Yes.
question, though. Let's swing it back to so this is what I'm saying. What's happening right now in Mexico with the cartel? Listen, there is money involved, a lot of business involved, tourism. So, for instance, let me read this real quick. Airlines suspended flights to Puerto Vallarta. American Airlines.
Puerto Velato.
No, it's not an O at the end. It's an A. So that's Vallarta.
Volata. Puerto Volata.
American Airlines, Delta, Southwest, Alaska Airlines, they canceled all flights. And now remember, over the summer is the FIFA World Cups, and Mexico is part of the Americas. And the World Cup is supposed to hold several games this summer in Jalisco. And I know I'm saying the state wrong. Jalisco. I don't know.
Jalisco.
Something. We both saying it wrong. But that state
Jalisco. I'm not looking at it. I'm just based on what you said.
That state is supposed to hold several FIFA World Cup games. So with this going on, people are going to be too scared to travel there, even though they don't.
Damn that sports event. See,
Wait,
that's what is so
let me
stupid.
finish.
People get blown away and they're worried about a sports event.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
Because it's not about the sports. It's about the millions and billions of dollars Mexico is going to be losing with tourism, with the tickets, with the vendors, with the local businesses, because they have a security issue. FIFA is not going to want to have any games played there. Now, the United States, because Trump and the FIFA chairman, they are very close when it comes to doing business. We're talking about billions of dollars in advertisement. So I'm bringing the money aspect into this. When you have a crazy cartel country going on and they're killing people, the local authorities, they're not going to want to come and do any type of business there. And then tourism is going to definitely decline drastically.
You know what? Caesar made remarks 2,040 years ago, 60 years ago, that are relevant today. In essence, and it wasn't just give them bread in circuses and they won't care what their betters do to run them. He basically said that people who have no business love sports to be distracted. In this case, gladiatorial contests and chariot races and stuff, because they need something to occupy them because they don't think that their lives are meaningful. And that's the same thing that's been going on. The natural order of things means that a lot of people get all freaked out about sports because their lives are not meaningful and they don't pay attention to the things that count. Now, when some people are in the course of ruthlessly doing business at their very deep expense, they get upset because they might lose the opportunity to watch a game. And that is ridiculous. But it is human nature. That's why the people that run stuff encourage certain things, and the other people just eat it up when they aren't in the position to run or contribute to that they know of. Now, that said, this is something that has been going on for a long time. Iran Contra thing. It goes into South America. We armed South America, and now those guns are coming back in crates along with the kilos of the drugs. And we're paying the cost for that. First, it was for communism, then it became for terrorism, And now people who have gotten insinuated in this process are making a lot of money. We can't even get any organization over in Afghanistan because of the 260-year history, 240-year history of the drug trade that was set up over there, propping up one drug lord after another and taking them down until the country is too chaotic to operate itself. That's going on, and we have to undo that unfortunate, tragic, and nasty aspect of colonialism. Now it's time for a reset, and it's not going to be pleasant. Somebody needs to crack down on this, and this premier, presidente or presidenta of Mexico, is apparently too deep into getting a benefit from things continuing as they are without giving lip service to her protestations that they're doing something about it, which they are not. So somebody's got to do something to protect the continent because outside influences are using this mess in this hemisphere from South America, Central America, and south of our border to control things and raise hell. And that is what the Monroe Doctrine is about.
Okay, let's learn something
And
here.
by the way, I've frozen here on the screen.
Oh, you're not frozen to us. So just real quick, it says pronounce Porto Vallarta. Porto Vallarta. Porto Vallarta. Porto Vallarta.
I've been there. Okay,
Wait,
yeah.
we have more people trying to help us. Catalia says the double L is pronounced like a J.
Well, I'm not looking at it. It is. That's right.
So Porto Ja, not Va, Ja, Yata. I don't know. All right.
So
Porto Ja, Porto Ja, Porto Jalara, something. I'm tearing it up. I'm sorry, guys.
now I can't even think straight. So
I'm sorry.
anyway, don't ask me, but
Maybe we should do Google. How you pronounce
well, maybe just let me read it. I'm not looking at it. And
yeah,
I'm not the
I have to
greatest
put it
speller
on
in
the
the world.
screen for you to read it. We'll do it towards the end. So
Pueblo Vallarta.
let me just share this real quick. What Trump said about what's going on there in Mexico, a hot mess. So he says Mexico must step up their effort on cartels and drugs. This comes as Mexico ramps up military operations after finally capturing the CGNG cartel leader El Mencho. It's another reminder that what happens south of the border doesn't stay there, right? So again, why do you think, because he was on our most wanted list here, but why do you think that that Mexico finally like killed him, if the president's supposed to be in bed with them? Maybe she's not.
The Mexican senator told you about it. She said the average Mexican does not like these cartels. They make life miserable. You take Tijuana, they had 2,800 fatalities in 1 year, 3 years ago. Now, no American city suffers casualty rates like that. But Memphis has a higher casualty rate, is more dangerous, by the way. So it's not as big as, say, Tijuana is, but, it's like people don't like to live like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go down to Mexico and you are just downtown at some place, Ensenada, Tijuana, or whatever, and somebody makes a bank delivery, they just don't have an armored truck come up and pull up. They got an army unit with, a whole platoon standing out there armed with M4 carbines, ready to gun somebody down in order to make sure the money gets into the bank. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Mexico City. I like the Mexico City, especially in the square, because it reminds me of a Mexican version of Times Square in New York. and they don't sleep. They're up all night. Because when I'm in a hotel sleep, it was a club nearby, and it was people outside. You could tell people was going to a club, but it was busy. The food and everything. But I understand how you could get caught up in something or get caught up in between and something that just randomly pop off or whatever. But I say all that to say, honey, I'm not going to Mexico anytime soon. I was reluctant to go back to just to go, whether I don't care if it's Cancun, whatever, because even throughout the Biden administration, I would see things that, it was a shootout at a resort because it was two cartel, adversaries going at it. They don't care who's around them, kids, tourists, they don't care. They're going to kill anyone in sight if you get in their way when it has to do with taking control, so to me it's dangerous in Mexico. I'm not talking about the Mexican people, but the cartels rule South America. I'm sorry.
Cancun, I love it, but it's dangerous now. Um, Two friends of mine, one was DEA and the other one was Metro Narco, got embedded, not embedded, they infiltrated one of the cartels for several years. They captured Prentice, who was from Memphis, who was running the Murder Inc. Operation out of one of the cartels. It's some interesting stories about the mess that's going on down there. See, this is just inexcusable for this last administration, the Biden Harris administration, to have facilitated this disaster. Now, we have a problem with these cartels, but we also have a problem with the foreign operatives, ISIS, Hamas, Al Qaeda, etc., and their affiliates who have gotten in. We got all of these enemies of the United States let in over a 4-year period, unscathed, unvetted, unchecked, and assisted. And it's a disaster. This is just crime. This isn't dealing with religious fanaticism or nationalism, which is an entirely different situation. And we've got all three of them against us. Nationalism from North Korea and the People's Republic of China and Iran. And we've got a religious fanaticism coming at us from other places in the Middle East and Iran. And then we've got the criminal aspect coming from stuff coming out of Afghanistan and what's coming in from South America, Central America, and just immediately below the southern border. These clowns just left us wide open. In other words, you live in a mansion that everybody else in the rest of the neighborhood or the town, or in this case, the world admires, and you left the front double doors wide open, and you say, come right on in, and all these folk are marching up and down the street. And they took everybody, the butler and everybody from the front door, and it's wide open, no telling who's come in at night, middle of the day, whatever, take them whatever they want. And my stuff is gone. Yeah, fool, you let them in to do it.
Well,
It's ridiculous.
I mean, we already have drug shootouts going on here, but it's more so with the locals. But and honestly, the cartel, it's spilled here. But this is why I approve of ICE and I approve of National Guards coming in to curtail the cartel's business here on American soil. So
I had, when I was on the criminal bench, 30 plus, 30 some years ago, I had 6 first-degree murder cases involved. I won't get into the gory details, but they were contract killings. And it had to do with the fact that in Memphis, which is the distribution point of the United States, Mexico, and Canada, we had cartels from Colombia opposed to cartels from Mexico operating between two central drug lords or drug queens, as you might want to put it. And what wound up happening was it was some people getting kidnapped who are with one organization tied up while they watch their mother's legs being broken. And then the guy and his mama buried alive under some other caskets at a funeral, that kind of stuff. Or slow strangulation of somebody so they gag over and over and were forced to swallow their tongue. This kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Honestly,
it's not
you
pleasant.
know what? Mexico to me would be the perfect country if they didn't have a cartel issue. Because like I said, the food, and it's always the people. It's even when I went to Cuba, it's the people that make these countries beautiful. But when you incorporate politics, when you incorporate corruption, right? It's just like, yeah, it's just like what's going on, and it's a shame because it's also, the American tourists that stuck over there, but the people that live there, they don't want to be. You don't want to be living in fear or anything could pop off at any moment. And now this, so yeah, so hopefully they can resolve that. Um, I don't trust that president. She's Jewish. She's connected to all the wrong people for all the wrong reasons. And
I'm not going to go there on that. But
well,
bottom line,
no, it's no. Let me correct myself. She's a Zionist.
well, let me just say this.
Different.
See, what happens is the government that Mexico operates under is not one that operates under a constitution like ours. Ours allows the people to be part of the whole process and protect themselves as part of the process. So, what happens is there is a limitation put on what the government can do. That's why we have the Bill of Rights. Mexico doesn't have that. And Mexican citizens, for example, are prohibited from, legally prohibited, which doesn't mean they follow the law,
Mhm.
from owning firearms that fire a military caliber. In the United States, that's not the case. But in Mexico, to get public safety, you have to give the government so much power in order to impose public peace, dignity, and order that you run the risk of a corrupt government oppressing you. Now, every now and then, what happens is there's a rebellion to that. And the precedent for what is going on right now is when Mexican crime spilled over into the United States. The year is 1916. The offender from south of the border is Pancho Villa. And the response from the United States is General Blackjack Pershing, John J. Blackjack Pershing, who takes an army expedition into Mexico where they go after Pancho Villa and they bring in aircraft and they bring in automobiles, not just horses, to go get him. So it is an interesting thing. It's a parallel. That's 110 years ago, but we've been through this before.
Mhm.
So here we go loop de loop. And by the way, the average person down there appreciated that General Pershing was bestowing order.
All right.
Not necessarily, but that's what they say.
Well, let's move from Mexico to Georgia.
Georgia, land of corruption out of Atlanta.
Fulton County.
Fulton County.
Fulton
What
County.
is the latest mess now?
All right. So last week, the Georgia Election Board held two meetings. And because they needed to make a decision on, okay, we're going to come in and whether they're going to come in and take over the elections in Fulton County, that election board in Fulton County. And so they decided not to, but they just put it on pause because they want to they're going to put it on hold before the takeover to see what the FBI findings are, right? And now Fulton County election officials, Rob Pitts and all of them, they hired multiple lawyers from a big law firm in New York to stop the FBI for further investigation. But I want to play some of the Georgia election board meeting clip. So I'm going to play the first 5 minutes because this woman who is a lawyer for Fulton County, when you hear them talk, they're actually admitting how non-citizens are voting in Fulton County, right? And these Democrats want to block the SAVE Act. So let me share this. And guys, please hit the like button. Please share. And if you want to send in a super chat, I have a goal. Please do so. It's highly appreciated.
Make sure the microphone is adjusted properly and that you tell us who you are.
Okay.
And
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. My name is Karen Pashuta. I am the attorney for the Fulton County Board of Registrations and Elections. I was just retained on Monday. You've probably seen me here before, though. Our office only represents local government clients, and I usually handle all the election offices. So I have been here before. With this case, we do admit that all three of the registrants that were in Fulton County appear to not be citizens. One of them was registered in 2013. The other two were in 2017. None of them have a voting history. Since that time, the system has changed immensely, and especially with Jarvis. Now, there's more affirmative steps that have to be taken, that they have checked yes to everything, including that they are a U.S. citizen. And also you upload basically the proof of their citizenship. So since then, not only has the state enhanced its procedures and the procedure with Jarvis, also the standard operating procedures are newer than they were in 2013 and 2017. You should have received an email yesterday. That packet does include a copy of that portion of Fulton's operating procedures and the steps that registration officials take to verify all the information, to make sure that they are not already registered with their driver's license or other information, and also to include the citizenship information. So considering these registrations occurred almost 10 years ago and more than 10 years ago, and that the system itself, both locally and with the state's office, has changed so much, we would ask that it either be dismissed or a letter of instruction be issued.
Thank you.
Which individual she discussed?
Which individuals in particular are you discussing? Which ones? Which three?
That would be the last names, Labra, Espinoza. And hold on one second. Sorry, I don't have that on my. Somewhere in the system. So that outlines that current process, and we've, changed our training since then, but also with the new system and the steps, there's many more steps now from the state system, and you also have to upload that proof of citizenship. So the likelihood of it reoccurring is much reduced.
Let's deal with DeKalb County and these three individuals first then.
No, this is Fulton County.
I'm sorry.
What about the others from Fulton?
Can I believe you have DeKalb right here?
Could I get your name again, please?
Karen Pashuta.
Could you spell that?
Pachuta.
Okay. And I have a question.
Mhm.
So aside from the changeover with Garvis and how the state has changed that, what procedures has Fulton undertaken to ensure that they're not registering non-citizens for voting?
Yes. The packet that we emailed yesterday, and I also believe it was handed out this morning, has the procedures and steps, and it sort of shows like an example registration that you go through. And it includes going through the checklist to make sure that they have checked all the portions. It also should check and make sure that they haven't registered before, either by driver's license number or another method, to make sure that there's not already a registration somewhere in the system. So that outlines that current process for training.
Okay, and let me ask you, were all of these people were registered to vote through what would be commonly referred to as the motor voter laws? Is that correct?
I don't believe so. They were not.
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
That seemed to be the case.
In the past, there's not a easy way for us to go back.
Well, in the future
and
either, right?
find
There's not a way to do it in the
that
Yeah.
occurs. there's not an easy way that I know from the county perspective to go through and to be able to verify whether someone is truly a citizen or not, that were registered prior to the change. I don't know if the Secretary of State has access to other databases or something that can run that kind of search. I'm not, I
So
don't know, but I know
basically-
from the county perspective, we don't really have a way to do that.
So basically, from a state level, there's really no, there's not a solid way to verify whether a person is a citizen or non-citizen on our voter rolls,
Not that the,
unless they
Right,
unless
unless
they check
something
their box and say I'm a
happens.
non-citizen,
Yeah,
or they get
or
a jury summons.
they get some, like say if they get a precinct card, precinct changes to make you get a precinct card and they realize, why am I getting this? I'm not, I can't vote. They may call the office. But I'm not aware of a sort of way for us to go from the start. So there are ways where people may realize, because these individuals probably did get precinct card notices and other
Yeah, but they
information
did their
because they're
job.
on
They
that
said that
list.
they were not a
Right.
citizen.
No, I agree.
Right. But so I don't want to prolong it because I think we're kind of repeating ourselves. So this is my last point.
No, and I don't want to place any blame on these voters. I mean,
No, I don't have any blame on the voter. The voters did what they were supposed to do. The voters did what they were supposed to do. They did it twice, actually.
Yeah.
They checked that they're a non-citizen on their registration card. They still were registered. And then they checked that they were a non-citizen when they got their jury summons. Thank God, because now that alerted you all and you were able to address it, which I appreciate. I'm glad you did that. But it still puts us in a position where we're looking at this from a state level. And what I'm hearing is that there is no statewide method of determining whether someone's a citizen or a non-citizen, because we're just sitting on this honor system. And this is the honor, thank God the honor system worked this time. But if they check, yes, I'm a citizen, they have a driver's license, and let's say they showed up for jury duty. I mean, we have non-citizens that can do this. I know we haven't gotten to the cab yet, but we have people who voted 11 times. I mean, this is kind of, and this is not on the county, I guess, because the county doesn't have a way of determining if
there were
non-citizens.
clerical errors, if there were clerical errors in the past, there's not easy way for us to go back.
Well, in the future
and
either, right?
find that.
There's not a way to do it in the future,
No.
like now,
Well,
right?
No, right. If we were to look at it in the future, but
Yeah.
at least for people registering now, it's much less likely to happen because there are so many steps.
They
But
have
as
to
far
show
as
an
people
ID
who are
or
already registered.
What are they showing? Because if they have a driver's
Well, when
license,
they
is
come
that what they
into
can upload and say that show proof of citizenship? What do they need to show?
Their driver's license says non-citizen, and they have to show us the another document. If their driver's license says non-citizen, they have to show us another document to prove their citizenship, naturalization paperwork. And we have to actually choose which document we're using.
Okay.
So let me pause it right there. You heard all that, right?
I heard that. It's the most preposterous situation I've ever heard of. And that's why the rest of us in this country are going through all of these changes after we've had driver's licenses, after we've been here for years, born here. We have to get those things with the star in there, which require that we go get a duplicate birth certificate, which we have to pay for, go through the changes of waiting for them to arrive, after the changes of trying to figure out how to get a birth certificate that you haven't seen in 40 years. And concern for old folks, screw that, it's out the window. You have to go get a birth certificate you haven't seen in 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, because these idiots have been doing stuff like, oh my God, we can give these illegals in some states, like California, don't even make this designation that you are an illegal or you're a non-citizen. So now we can no longer use a driver's license to get on board an airplane or a boat or something. We have to go through the 9 yards. And this is the same bunch of bozos that's talking about you shouldn't have to have ID to vote because it discriminates against minorities and senior citizens. Oh, wow. Would you need a driver's license to get in a movie, a nightclub, buy whiskey, drive your car, cash a check, deposited a check? So what is this? This is just
Here's my question.
double speak nonsense.
Did you hear? That was Janelle King, the black woman that sits on the Georgia State Board. She was like, thank God that these non-citizens are
Honest.
had some type of honor, but they were getting summons to be jurors.
Yeah, see, they wanted to get out of that. So here you go. See, there's fallout behind this. You're going to put a non-citizen on a jury. And if you got a conviction and that person hadn't come forth and said they wanted to be on the jury, nobody would have known. Because you have, by your policy, corrupted a fundamental aspect of the whole process. There is another side of being a citizen. It's subject to being drafted or conscripted in an emergency. It's called a draft. All right. It's subject to serving on a jury. So a defendant can have a jury of his or her peers decide on whether you are in fact proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt or not, and your presumption of innocence remains, and also being allowed to participate in the selection of your government. See, these things, these people don't care because their agenda is jeopardized by the prospect of losing at least 6 congressmen by 2030, which is 4 years from now. Well, 3.5 years from now, so to speak.
So let's walk that down real quick, because my question to you was, and you did answer it, how are they even getting on the juries? These are people who live in a community. They're not citizens, but they're living, they're working, they're probably paying maybe some local taxes a little bit, if that, but their bodies are being counted, which helps that district gain that political party. So the more bodies, the more you can expand for your political party to get seats, whether it's on a state or federal level. So that's why they're allowing these non-citizens to be embedded in our society like that.
Okay, I filled out census forms as an adult, 1970, 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010, 2020. That's 6. The only one out of that 6 where I was not asked if I was a citizen was 2020. And President Trump at the time was trying to oppose that, so that was required. That was so California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, etc., would not lose representation in the House. It was a bureaucratic prank that was technically illegal, because it never been done before. So they got illegals that they knew were populating their states counted in that mix, so they wouldn't lose congressional representation, and these people could not vote at that time. So now they've tried to let in many more, millions more, and they have also set it up so they can try and cheat and let them vote. And the only reason these people got discovered is not because of their honesty, but because of their reluctance to sit on a jury, just like American citizens are reluctant. As a retired judge, the most frequent question I get from people is, Judge, how do I get out of doing jury service? I don't want you to, because you need to be there, because you're whining about justice is just does, man. They be picking, no, fool, then sit on the jury. Take your jury duty.
Or see, if you're a non-citizen, you shouldn't be on the jury.
That's right. But they didn't want to be on the jury because it's inconvenient. So they raised the point, well, I don't have to be on the jury because I'm not a citizen. That's the only reason you found out about it. If it was something good, I bet you they wouldn't have been that honest.
Right.
And it wasn't honesty for an honest purpose. It was for the, not so much the honest. I shouldn't qualify as, I just don't want to be bothered. Plus, I'm scared if I sit in there, somebody might discover that I'm illegally here.
Let me play a little bit more.
Voter rolls to ensure that there aren't any non-voter rolls. And
that's not true. We're looking at 7 cases or 9 cases right now of non-citizens on the voter rolls. And these are just 2 counties of 159 counties in this state. We could do better than this.
And this,
Judge, can you hear me? You just went out.
I hear you.
Oh, okay.
This is what we know, because they were summoned to do jury duty and they happened to do the right thing by saying that they're a non-citizen. But if you have a bunch of people on the rolls where we have county election workers that are not trained to look for non-citizen IDs, they're just matching the voter rolls. And then on top of that, if you have someone who does get a jury summons and decides that they want to go and sit on our jury, even though they're a non-citizen, then we don't catch them. So for people that are saying, oh, it's just 9 people, it's just 9 people that happen to do the right thing. We
Okay.
have a lot of other people out there that may be on the rolls that haven't, especially when we have inflated and dirty voter rolls. So I think we should look at requesting counties to send their voter rolls through this system so that we can scrub these voter rolls to ensure that there aren't any non-citizens on them.
Okay, stop right there. One of the problems in southern states, Georgia included, Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, one of the problems is that relying on voter rolls, what results is there is a cadre of people that over and over and over from the years are called repeatedly for jury service. So there are bigger rolls of voters out there that need to be called who also have driver's licenses, and we are only taking a small segment. And remember, these 9 people that they're talking about just didn't want the pain of sitting up all day long, distracted from whatever they wanted to do rather than being good citizens. They asserted that not so much for being honest, but because they didn't want to be on the jury. I don't buy this about them being all that good and honest. It's the same thing that you get when ordinary Americans, Judge, how do I get out of a jury service? Judge, what should I tell them? I'm not going to tell you anything. You need to serve on the jury.
Why are you? I don't see you on camera.
I can see me.
I can't. We cannot see you, honey. It's black.
Well, I here we go. Something interfering. I'm looking at myself. I just put my hand up and my finger up to point something out. Let's see what we have here. This is what I say. For recent purposes, it's just over and over again. The same thing seems to be happening when I say something interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Something happens. Video. What do I have? Video input. Broad ultra wide camera.
So I have a question. It's stunning to me
Can you
because,
see me now?
we hear all.
No, but let me just finish playing it because you can hear it, right?
I can hear it.
All right, let me just finish playing this and have you comment, and then we'll do the camera thing, okay?
We don't have non-citizens voting in our elections and that kind of thing. And given the inflated voter roll numbers, and given the fact that this investigation opened the case October 22nd of 2024, and we're in February of 2026, when Fulton County was made aware that there was this investigation, what proactive steps did they take to look at other identification and that kind of thing for their voter rolls? Did they do anything extra to attempt to see if there are non-citizens who are on the rolls?
I can't answer that question directly, but again, it is harder. We don't have an easy way of just looking up, prior registered people. And I do have a note. You had mentioned 2 other people, so I believe it was Gambrell we find in the role, but the 5th one.
You were talking about current, right?
Yeah, currently,
currently, when you register, you have to put in that proof of citizenship.
Right. So given the fact that this investigation's been going on a while, I'm curious to find out how many, or is there any way to tell how many non-citizens does Fulton County have on its voter rolls at this time?
I don't know.
I'm not aware of a database that we
I don't think they
easily,
because they have to have their ID.
yeah. The 5th person that you had listed, is it Osage? They just tried to look it up. They do not see that person on Fulton County's rolls.
That person was taken off too.
Okay, so that was the end of that. Can you hear me? Now we can't. He can't.
Hello?
Okay, you can hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Honey, go out and come back in. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Go out and
boy.
come back in. Doing too much. Doing too much that end up nothing is done at all. Just doing too much. There you go. All right. Did you hear that? That last
Can
part?
you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Can you see me?
Yes, yes, yes.
But you can't hear me.
I can hear you. Yes. Can you cannot hear me. Yes, I can hear you and I can see you. Yes. Yeah, ever since that bitch called, it's messed up.
Can you hear me now?
I
I
can
can't hear
always
you.
hear you. Let me call him because I don't know what the hell is going on. He pressing buttons and shit. I be having to edit all this shit out. His phone is not even fucking ringing. Like, what the hell? Let me see something here. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Oh my God. I can't even call him because it's like he has it on silent going straight to voicemail now. He pressing buttons. He has his watch, phone, and desktop all connected together. Why? I don't know. Yes. Like ever since that bitch called you, now your thing is messing up. We could see and hear you. We could see and hear you. So go out and come in again. Yeah, because that little hoe, you know, she calling, just knocking you off, and that knocks everything off. Like, come on. Can you hear me right now? I hear you faintly right now. But because you're still, let me remove you from this thing here. So I can't hear anything at all. Judge, because I'm on the phone with you. Can you hear me right now on the phone? I can, yeah, but I can't make you louder. That's okay. Just all right. Go ahead and click the link again. I went out and came back in twice. It doesn't seem do it again. So do. Let me try that one more time. Okay. Let's go all the way out and come back in for the third time. All right. Let's see if 3 is the charm. Yeah, and tell that hoe stop calling you. She's not. Nobody's calling me. I don't have hoes calling me. You keep defending that hoe. You keep defending that hoe. Okay. Now, all right. See if I can get back in here. All right, bye. Honey, he be mad when I be going in on her. He be defending her. I don't care. And I don't care. And that's why I say what I say. That's why I say what that's why. Oh, did y'all hear him? Or maybe my phone was too far from the microphone. She was like, she ain't no hoe, honey. He get mad. Oh my God. Ever since she called him, his whole system is bad enough. Everything is connected. The he got the Apple Watch, he got a new phone, he got a brand new desktop, and he got it all connected together. A hot mess. Look at we can't see you or hear you right now. Oh, there you go.
You can hear me or see me?
Turn the camera around, honey, because we could see everything in your house.
That's
All your
just the
documents.
back area back here.
We see all your documents.
Well, that's just a storage area up there.
Were you able
So
to catch the last part of the video? That was some good stuff they were saying.
I couldn't hear a thing.
All right, so I'm just going to play it again.
That's not true.
All right, you heard that, right?
Yeah, I hear that.
Okay, so let me play it.
We're looking at 7 cases or 9 cases right now of non-citizens on the voter rolls. And these are just 2 counties of
I
159
heard
counties in
that.
this
You
state.
can fast
We could
forward a
do
few
better
minutes.
than this.
And this is what we know because they were summoned to do jury duty and they happened to do the right thing by saying that they're a non-citizen. But if you have a bunch of people on the rolls where we have county election workers that are not trained to look for non-citizen IDs, they're just matching the voter rolls. And then on top of that, if you have someone who does get a jury summons and decides that they want to go and sit on our jury, even though they're a non-citizen, then we don't catch them. So for people that are saying, oh, it's just 9 people, it's just 9 people that happen to do the right thing. We have a lot of other people out there that may be on the rolls that haven't, especially when we have inflated and dirty voter rolls. So I think we should look at requesting counties to send their voter rolls through this system so that we can scrub these voter rolls to ensure that there aren't any non-citizens on them.
So I have a question.
2 quick observations. One, why is this woman representing Fulton County instead of their county attorney's office?
Which woman?
2,
The white woman?
the lawyer.
Uh-huh.
Why do they have a county attorney that the taxpayers pay, and why are they paying 4 or 5 times as much for the attorney fees for this private lawyer when they already have official counsel? Next thing is, as I mentioned, I don't know if you picked any of this up, but the main problem is that people want to get out of jury service, including illegals. And that's probably why they said, hey, I don't need to serve on a jury because I'm not even a citizen, just so they didn't have to show up. Like I said before, one of the most popular questions I get is a retired judge, Judge, how do I get out of jury service?
Right.
So this isn't altruism or good character. I'm confessing I'm not a citizen. This is trying to claim that is an exemption.
It's stunning to me because, we hear all the time that we don't have non-citizens voting in our elections and that kind of thing. And given the inflated voter roll numbers, and given the fact that this investigation opened the case October 22nd of 2024, and we're in February of 2026, when Fulton County was made aware that there was this investigation, what proactive steps did they take to look at other identification and that kind of thing for their voter rolls? Did they do anything extra to attempt to see if there are non-citizens who are on the rolls?
I can't answer that question directly, but again, it is harder. We don't have an easy way of just looking up, prior registered people. And I do have a note. You had mentioned 2 other people, so I believe it was Gambrell we find in the role, but the 5th one.
You were talking about current, right?
Yeah, currently.
Currently, when you register, you have to put in that proof of citizenship.
Right. So given the fact that this investigation's been going on a while, I'm curious to find out how many, or is there any way to tell how many non-citizens does Fulton County have on its voter rolls at this time?
I don't know.
I'm not aware of a database that we
I don't
can
think they
easily.
Because they have to have their ID.
Yeah. The 5th person that you had listed, is it Osage? They just tried to look it up. They do not see that person on Fulton County's rolls.
That person was taken off too.
Yeah, but
All right, so
Okay.
that was in
You
the,
want to get an approximation, find out what percentage of the registered voters are called at any one given time for jury duty. That's one number. And then the next number you need in order to make the calculations is find out what percentage of the registered voter are on the jury call list.
well,
And then you might get an idea of the much larger number of people. See, for example, if you've got, okay, you call your main jury panel. I'm a judge, and maybe what I would do in, say, in Memphis, Shelby County, is I'd have 3,500 to 4,500 jurors that I'd qualify for the next several months. All right. And I would have a big session in a big auditorium where we did that. That's probably the same thing in Georgia here. So you got 3 or 4,000 people who go through the basic qualification. They sit there and have their request that they've submitted up front reviewed by clerks and perhaps a judge when they claim exemption. So what you wind up getting is in a big place like that where you have potentially close to 1 million or 500,000 people, you get panels potentially of a lot more than 4,500. So out of the people that potentially get called, you've got many, many more than 9. And then the other thing is only those 9 brought it to anybody's attention.
well, here's the thing. What we do know for sure, they have non-citizens slash illegals on their voting rolls, and these same non-citizens slash illegals are getting jury summons. So they're on the juries down there, they're voting down there, and they don't even have a system set up on how to tell if someone is a citizen or non-citizen, which is why we need the SAVE Act and those real IDs, because there won't be any type of discrepancy. You don't got to bring in no birth certificate because you don't got a real ID because you don't qualify for a real ID. You're not a citizen. So,
But you got to get a birth certificate to qualify for the real ID. I told you about my
and
tribulations.
that's easy for American citizens. So,
Mm-mm. 35 years ago, I needed a duplicate of my birth certificate from Washington, D.C. I made a phone call, put a
I'm talking
credit
about
card
the
up.
majority, not
No, I mean, no, I'm just
like
talking
you.
about it's changed because remember, you used to be able to dial a number and get a real live human being. Now you dial a number, it's press 1 if for English, press 2 for Espanol, and then when you get that, then you got to go through the 1 through 9.
This is what I'm saying. If listen, I could go to the city where I live at, to the municipal court, not the court, but the municipal record.
Department of Vital Records, yeah.
Yes. And I get my birth certificate. Now, if you moved out the state and you can't go back, like you were saying, you will call, but like, okay, I need my birth certificate mailed. It has to be some type of procedure for you to get your birth certificate.
Okay.
But those are exceptional cases. But I'm speaking in general. You go to the vital records, you get your birth certificate. So that's what the Democrats are trying to use as an excuse. Oh, it's going to be hard for people to get their birth certificates and this, that. No, it's not. I don't want to hear that, because Fulton County had non-citizens voting and on juries. They said it,
Okay.
they admitted to it, and they're trying to come up with a system to avoid it.
Okay, I'm not addressing that point. I'm addressing another one to show that the Democratic Party claim is irresponsible and it's bogus because they set up a reality that's completely contradictory to their thing about it's too hard. They're the ones that are registering these illegals. They're the ones that let the illegals in. They're the ones that set up the policy that the illegals can get a driver's license. So what they have produced is, since the last time I tried back in the 1990s, when it took me a phone call to somebody and I gave them my credit card, and in 62 hours, 72 hours, I got my birth certificate from Washington, D.C. What wound up happening is now when I had to get the real ID, press one if, press two if, and then go around the circle 8 or 9, 10 times and finally get a real live operator, and they can't even find it. It takes me, even after I order the doggone thing, it takes me almost 9 months to get a copy of my birth certificate, and that is 30 some years after the last time I needed to make a phone call. The reason I needed to do that is because the Democratic Party set up this mess in California, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, etc., because they let known illegals get driver's licenses, which destroyed the integrity of an ordinary license as a valid ID and representation that you are an American citizen because the state checks you out. Now, they did that and they made it more difficult, which is a contradiction, and it shows the stupidity of coming up with a blockheaded scheme in the first place.
So, one more thing, because I want to switch to Fanny. Fanny! See what she doing now. She
How about
always
Fanny Five? That's the way I think of her. The Fifth Amendment. She really blew it, and she's supposed to be a member of her state's bar and seems to have absolutely no understanding of what the Fifth Amendment's about. She
Fanny,
should have
Fanny
taken it.
5. Fanny 5. All right, so it says here prosecutors stand by former militant's conviction, but blast judge's prior conduct as prosecutor. Georgia prosecutors defending the 2002 murder conviction of a one-time Black Panther leader known as H. Rap Brown say new DNA evidence still points strongly to his guilt in the shooting of two sheriff deputies. However, they also accused the case's original lead prosecutor, now a Fulton County judge who has handled several high-profile political cases, of grave and clear misconduct. The striking Wednesday filing by Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis' office acknowledges serious wrongdoing by the former prosecutor and an FBI agent involved in the original investigation. But it argues that modern DNA testing combined with ballistic evidence and trial testimony leaves little doubt that Brown, by then known as Jamil Abdullah Al Amin, was responsible for the attack that killed one deputy and wounded another outside of Al Amin's Atlanta home. Former prosecutor Robert McBurney is a Superior Court judge and has been involved in some of the most politically charged cases in the country. Prosecutors describe his conduct in Al Amin's trial as the most egregious issue in the case. Despite standing by the conviction, Willis' office said it does not object to hearing to elevate the case in its entirety, potentially keeping alive the public reexamination of prosecution that has long divided civil rights advocates and law enforcement.
I know knew H. Rap Brown personally. I thought he was one of the great ones when it came to being able to inspire people. He got set up and originally arrested thanks to Maulana Ron Karinga, aka Ron Everett of the US organization, who started Kwanzaa. Now,
Well, I'm
I'll
curious.
leave it at that. In that particular case, I always thought was suspect in terms of his entire prosecution.
Mhm.
And I think it's an after effect attempt to save face for what they did, because the whole state has a problem with what they did to that man back when. And the situation with whether or not he is involved actively in that kind of thing is another point, but it's like the charge to the jury. If you find the witnesses lied about one particular aspect of his testimony, then you are entitled to infer that he lied about the whole thing.
So
So
it says here,
that's what you get here.
it says the lead prosecutor, McBurney oversaw the special grand jury Willis used in her investigation that eventually resulted in an indictment of Trump and others over allegations that they illegally tried to overturn the president's narrow 2020 election loss in Georgia. Notably, though, McBurney barred Willis from seeking charges against the then state senator Burt Jones because she had hosted a fundraiser for his Democrat opponent in the lieutenant governor's race, which McBurney ruled created an actual and untenable conflict of interest. McBurney also declared Georgia's restrictive abortion law unconstitutional, a finding the state superior court has vacated in a case that is ongoing. A trifecta of issues. This case had a trifecta of issues which undermine the process and the public's confidence in justice. During closing arguments at trial, McBurney displayed the chart titled Questions for the Defendant and asked questions meant to focus the jury's attention on the fact that Al Hameen, aka H. Rap Brown, didn't testify. H. Rap Brown also had court permission to remain, I don't like this, to remain seated during the trial for religious reasons, including not standing when the jury entered. McBurney employed the jury, don't stand for him. Federal courts have ruled that McBurney violated Al Hameen's constitutional rights, but that is unlikely. His actions substantially affected the verdict. So this week,
Yeah, I know how that goes. It's the prejudicial effect wasn't that great. It was plain error, but it did not substantially influence the outcome. That's what they're saying.
So this week's filing says McBurney crossed the line from aggressive advocacy into misconduct that undermined the core principles of justice, accusing him of misrepresenting evidence and withholding critical information from defense. So why is Fannie Willis all of a sudden bringing this up?
Okay. Question is the man alive?
He's dead.
Yes. So why are they bringing it up? They're taking a dead man and trying to resurrect the case. Are they trying to get a posthumous pardon from the governor?
Nope.
Are they trying to do what?
She
What is the purpose?
Right. And I think the purpose is to discredit this judge.
Who is about to do what?
Well, what he did, I think what was it that he did that got her pissed off? He barred Willis from seeking charges against a state senator, Burt Jones, because she hosted a fundraiser for his Democrat
Okay, so
opponent.
Fannie wants to do right for a change and go after somebody. So, okay, there you go. You have this political infighting. So you have two individuals, with due respect to both of them, who are allegedly utilizing the sacrosanct procedures of criminal justice to go do something other than bring somebody to justice.
Right. And
Or maybe people need to be brought to justice, and you find out that, oh, wow, they should be investigated. But now that this person has corrupted the process by using it for what is the term now? Lawfare, they have discredited their actions. So people should look at it in a circumspect fashion. Is this truly an effort to seek justice for the people, or is it just another dodge that you find yourself on the other side of this time?
Right. So the lawyers for H. Rap Brown also maintained that Campbell planted guns used to shoot the deputies at the site where H. Rap Brown was arrested.
Okay.
Campbell. Mhm.
I bring your attention to the Glass House tapes written by Louis Tackwood, part 1 and part 2, where he details that he was instructed to use the resources of the Los Angeles Police Department's burglary squad to go in, burglarize Angela Davis's premises, take the guns that were supposedly used in that Kern County courthouse shooting and plant them so that they could become involved in the process. And he details it at great length. And I actually witnessed him testify in front of a murder trial where he was identified as Lieutenant Louis Tackwood of the Los Angeles Police Department's, I think it was, SIS unit, or Special Investigative Services unit. That was when I was doing extra credit thing, observing a murder trial and reporting on it for a law school course.
So it says here the FBI special agent James Campbell approached H. Rap Brown while he was on the ground in handcuffs, kicked and spit on him. This is what we do to cop killers, the filing said. A reprimand of Campbell did not clear S.A. Campbell's stain on the investigation. So this is just, highlighting some of the stuff that went down but with that incident.
Oh, they really jacked this guy up. Ron
H. Brown.
Corrego, what he did was had his folk disassemble a carbine, an M1 carbine, and they had talked H. Rap Brown into, I was a witness to this, they had talked H. Rap Brown into letting them take his luggage to the LA International Airport, LAX, and in the process, they slipped this disassembled M1 carbine into the luggage when he was under charges of inciting a riot. Stuff that we find Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi and all of the Democratic suspects doing on a regular basis, but he did just a little bit of what they were doing and he got indicted for it. So when they found the carbine in his luggage, not because it went through security, but because after they put it in there, they called and said, if you look in his luggage, you'll find a disassembled carbine, and he got arrested, and that's how he wound up getting held with no bond for the rest of the proceedings. And this is just part of that whole thing. They wanted to get rid of somebody that, in the context of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Stokely Carmichael, and many others, probably was one of the most effective public speakers of the time. So,
So
that's
let me read this
suspect to
here.
me.
It's so H. Rap Brown lawyers have also maintained that Campbell, the FBI agent, planted guns used to shoot deputies at the site where H. Rap Brown was arrested. Campbell had been transferred to Atlanta after shooting an unarmed Muslim man in the back of the head. The man's supporters accused Campbell's of planting a gun found at the scene. This was a previous situation. The judge did not allow the jury to hear about the prior shooting after the defense presented newspaper articles about it, wanting to use that shooting to demonstrate bias and motive to plant guns. If defense attorneys had presented recently interviewed witnesses rather than relying on articles, the judge likely would have allowed the jury to consider that information, the new filing argues. But this is what I'm saying about Fannie. So this evidence wasn't allowed to be used in H. Raps Brown case, right? But you're saying today in 2026, you stand by the conviction of him being guilty.
Yeah, like the whole trial wasn't tainted. And my point of what the story was is I'm a witness to other instances of them planting evidence to get H. Rap Brown.
Right. So,
well, see, look, I was his bodyguard for a week in Los Angeles. This was way back in the 60s before any of this developed. And we inspected his luggage and said, do not trust these people. And he went ahead and trusted them anyway. So between the time his luggage was inspected by the people on the scene and it got to LAX, somehow or another, a disassembled weapon was put inside the luggage. We know that when it left the location, it was clean. We know that when it arrived at the location in question, it was dirty. And we know who had exclusive possession and control of that luggage in between point A and point B.
So it says the new DNA evidence. Al Amin's, aka H. Rat Brown, lawyers argue that nothing connected Al Amin to the guns used to shoot the deputies. Fannie Willis' office used DNA testing that wasn't available at the time of the trial to test the guns and related items. The test excluded Al Amin's from the DNA found on both guns, but Al Amin's DNA was identified on a leather belt wrapped around one of the guns, the filing says. The evidence is a strong indication of his guilt, especially when paired with prior ballistic evidence and testimony. So it says the shooting. As a radical activist from the 1960s, Al Amin, aka H. Rat Brown, once said violence was as American as cherry pie, and that Black people will use violence if needed to fight oppression. He converted to Islam during a prison stint and moved to Atlanta in the 1970s, becoming the leader of one of the nation's largest Black Muslim groups, the National Ummah. But March 16, 2000, Fulton County Sheriff's deputies, what happened? What the fuck, yo? Like, this is getting ridiculous with his fucking phone right now. This is crazy. Yeah, like what is going on?
I don't know. Every time I get on something and it
Somebody
comes,
keeps calling you.
nobody's calling me. It
So what
just,
was
it's,
about?
I
Did you
got this
really?
yellow banner at the
Oh,
top
just
that
forget about it. Just
says,
forget about it. Did you hear when I was talking about the DNA evidence?
I heard all of that. Now, I was replying, but in the middle of my reply is when it dropped, and I got the yellow
What
banner
was
that
I
said,
saying when
oops.
you were replying?
Well, what's the last thing you have of me saying?
Nothing, because I was talking. I was see, that's the thing. I was talking about the new evidence. So it says here, H. Rat
Okay,
Brown lawyers.
I heard that, the new evidence, the DNA stuff, but you said it was on a belt that was found wrapped around the gun. See, it's very easy to get something like a belt. You go in somebody's house or you go through their luggage or they get checked into a jail for some charges, they have to surrender their belts. So here you have at least one instance I know about where they falsified information and evidence and planted some. This is another instance where the allegations there. Now, we saw Fannie Willis being very unreliable in what she testified to relative to her relationship to Attorney Wade and the circumstances that were going on with the Trump prosecution, the prosecution against the rap group, and by inference, the prosecution against the teachers. So if you can't believe somebody in one instance, you are entitled to infer that they're not being truthful in another one. So we don't have any evidence that is being offered that's subject to a defense testing it by rigorous and close cross examination before it is allowed to be admitted, and then attempting to impeach its likelihood for being valid and reliable by their own evidence. We just have Fannie Willis's representation, and we've seen how totally unreliable Fannie Willis is when it comes to making representations. So, in other words, can I make a plain language? This ain't shit, you know. So, bottom line is you talk shit, you lie and tell us shit, then don't expect us to believe the rest of your shit. Now, that's the way I'd characterize it.
Yeah, because my thing is like, what are you doing? You're just focusing on the judge of this case, not to overturn, the man passed on, but it's just like what is the price? You know what this is? No. You know what this is? she is trying to deflect from everything that is going on with Fulton County elections, with the FBI, with her owing $17 million that the taxpayer is going to have to pay. Nathan Wade didn't come and testify. She's trying to deflect people attention off that onto this and sprinkle in some racism and civil rights nonsense.
And
So,
by the way, her father was a staunch supporter of H. Rap Brown.
right, because he was a Black Panther, wasn't he?
Excluding that, I went to school with him for 8 years, so I know what he expressed and what we talked about. And he was a staunch supporter, if I recall correctly, of H. Rap Brown. So now there you go. This is absurd. I don't believe anything that Fannie Willis offers. It has zero credibility, and she's been impeached as a reliable witness to anything.
All right, I want to this and something else real quick. It's the last thing. I want us to talk about the Supreme Court and the tariffs, right? So, Supreme Court strikes down tariffs.
Can I summarize it in just a few words? Uh, it's interesting what you get with this because the Supreme Court, through Roberts, did not say he can't do something else. It just says, since you're talking tariffs, that's in effect the tax. Now, it's left wide open
Right.
for Trump to go after the same targets with an embargo or, let me read the thing, and it speaks for itself.
Yeah, because it says here, Roberts Court shuts door on tariffs but leaves room for Trump to prevail.
Yeah, but the bottom line is it may have been a brilliant tactical move by Trump to get this particular Supreme Court to go against him because it leaves draconian methods open. For example, let's say that you want to bring in 10 tons of steel or 100 or 1,000 tons of steel and import them. You pay so much per ton as a tariff. The Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. But what the Supreme Court, even in Roberts' opinion, says you can do is Trump can say, okay, I can establish an embargo. You can't bring in any steel from that location, or I can set a quota. You can't bring in 100 tons of steel, but you can bring in 10. So it leaves it, you know,
So it
some
says
people
here,
would like to pay a little tariff on it rather than being totally banned from bringing it in, which is an embargo or subject to a quota. You can only bring this much in.
So it says the U.S. Supreme Court may have struck down President Donald Trump's tariffs, but the fight is far from finished. While the court closed one legal door, it left several others wide open, and the president has already signaled that he intends to step through them. On Friday, last Friday, the Supreme Court issued its much anticipated decision in Learning Resources Inc. versus Trump, a case about whether the International Emergency Economic Powers Act authorizes the president to impose the challenge import tariffs. In a 6-3 opinion written by Chief Justice John Roberts, the court held that IEEPA does not grant the president authority to impose tariffs. The ruling struck down the tariffs at issue in the case. Importantly, however, the court did not hold that the president lacks tariff authority altogether. Rather, it concluded only that IEEPA is not a valid statutory foundation for such measures. The opinion left intact the president's ability to rely on other trade statutes enacted by Congress. It goes on to say, distinct roadmap. Justice Brett Kavanaugh underscored that limitations in his principled dissent, and in doing so, he sketched a roadmap for future presidential actions. Although I firmly disagree with the court's holding today, the decision might not substantially constrain a president's ability to order tariffs going forward. That is because numerous other federal statutes authorize the president to impose tariffs and might justify most, if not all, of the tariffs issued in this case. He pointed specifically to a Trade Expansion Act of 1962, Trade Act of 1974, and Tariff Act of 1930. So the president announced his next move. You know what? I'm so sick of this today. I am. You know what, guys? I think that I'm probably going to have to start pre-recording shows with him because the live stream is just it's not working. We can't see or hear you. Yeah, I'm really going to have to start pre-recording. Judge, you need to go out. And trust me, it's not the connection. Somebody is constantly calling him. It's not oh, they're after me or they're trying to censor me. It's not that. It's not. It's the connection. It really is. I can't see or hear you. Go out and come back in. It's not no, it's someone constantly calling him. That's why I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad calling somebody a bitch or low grade or raggedy because they are. She is. But people constantly and several other people call him. And a lot of times there are people know he's the one alive, but they just want to be spiteful. He did a show earlier today. I bet you he didn't get no interruptions, especially from her. We still can't see or hear you. We still can't see or hear you. And so, yeah, I mean, listen, I'm just going to have to just do lives by myself and just pre-record with the judge. I'm just gonna have to pre-record with him on Sunday evening and have it uploaded for you guys Monday afternoon. Because this is just it's too much stop and go, stop and go. When you do a lot of stop and go, it does mess up the views. It does push me down further in the algorithm and it just throws the whole flow of the show off. Now, I don't want to keep doing that. I would love for you guys to be live with the judge, but we just gonna have to pre-record man up. We're gonna have to just pre-record man up. There you go.
Okay, can you see me?
I can see and hear you now.
Okay, I keep getting this yellow banner that says, oops, connection lost. It has nothing to do, I could hear you talk, but you couldn't see me. It had nothing to do with somebody called me. It just says repeatedly at the top with this yellow banner.
And here we go again. Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes, I'm doing
Can you
live.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear and see you. Can you hear me? Yes, Helamel. I'm doing a live on Wednesday.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's that yellow man just went right back up there. Oops, connectivity.
I don't know. You need a stronger Wi-Fi. So anyway,
Well,
let's
they're out there working on the street. I don't know what the devil.
all right. So I want to get back into this because I don't know what I was saying. I said, okay, so now Trump's next move. He says, today I will sign an order to impose 10% global tariffs under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs already being charged. And we are also initiating several Section 301 and other investigations to protect our country from unfair trading practices. The message was unmistakable. The court's ruling will not mark the end of the administrative tariff strategy.
And look, what did I've told people? There's a principle of law and legislation. What you can't do through one door, you can do through the other one. Imagine the whole process as a house. Most houses have a front door and a back door. If you have to go around the back door because you can't go in the front, you just have to go through more stages. That's all this is right here. Even Roberts admitted that Trump is not cut off. He just can't do it the particular way he did. So these particular statutes, those are allowances that Congress put in long time ago that allowed the chief diplomat of the United States, as per the Constitution, to do these things. Now, it's just there's nothing they can do about it. And there's one other thing he can do, which is as chief diplomat, he can authorize, can negotiate a treaty. And the treaty is submitted to the Senate, not the House and the Senate, just the Senate, where the Republicans hold the majority. And if it is ratified by the Senate, what winds up happening is, guess what? It becomes part of the supreme law of the land.
And this is what he wrote on Truth Social. Based on a thorough, detailed, and complete review of the ridiculous, poorly written, and extraordinarily anti American decision on tariffs issued yesterday, after many months of contemplation by the United States Supreme Court, please let this statement serve to represent that I, as President of the United States of America, will be effective immediately raising the 10% worldwide tariffs on countries, many of which have been ripping the U.S. off for decades without retribution until I came along, to the fully allowed and legally tested 15% level. During the next short number of months, the Trump administration, will determine and issue the new and legally permissible tariffs, which will continue our extraordinarily successful process of making America great again, greater than ever before. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump.
What this is about, very briefly, is that the United States for decades had very high tariffs that guaranteed that the American worker would be employed and would get a heavy, large, reasonable, and lucrative wage for what he did. At the end of World War II, the United States came out of it in an unprecedented fashion, way on top of the rest of the world when it came to manufacturing capacity and technology. Europe was devastated, so was Asia. So we came up with various plans, the Marshall Plan for Europe, what MacArthur did for Japan, acting as shogun. All right, over there, General Marshall, General MacArthur. Congress passed some changes in our tariff situation to give Europe and Asia a break so they could be restored as markets for the industrial capacity of the United States. It worked. But what happened is it did not get ended once it had worked, and some smart people were able to take advantage of the loophole loopholes that came about from these tariff reductions or eliminations. And the Democratic Party, when it was in office, passed legislation that helped them out. It was trying to gain the favor of heavy industry and high finance and business. So what happens is smart, well, cunning, I wouldn't say smart in the long term, businesses decided to take their operations abroad where their cost would be much lower. They could sell the product for the same thing and get bigger profits, but that put the American worker out of work, that reduced his wages, that increased inflation, and that diminished the capacity of the United States to maintain its lead as the number one producer of industrial goods. Now that is possessed by the People's Republic of China, which has around 82% of the industrial capacity of the whole world, thanks to these ill-advised policies. So it's causing us to go downhill. Unemployment is down, inflation is high, and the tariffs will have some immediate impact on the increase in cost, but they also provide a market opportunity for America to get back into the business of manufacturing its own consumable goods. So that's a good thing.
All right. One more thing. This is the last. Did you hear Gavin Newsom, what he said? Let me play this. He's getting a lot of backlash. We'll do it this way. All right. So Gavin Newsom, he sat down to talk with the mayor of Atlanta, who's a black man, forgot his name. And the audience, of course, in Atlanta is majority black. And so trying to relate, I guess, to black people, he ends up making this stupid comment and he's getting a lot of backlash.
I'm not, I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to impress upon you. I'm like you. I'm no better than you. I'm a 960 SAT guy. and I'm not trying to offend anyone, trying to act all there if you got 940. But literally a 960 SAT guy. I cannot, you've never seen me read a speech because I cannot read a speech. Maybe the wrong business to be in. I'm not.
So he's trying to relate to black people, saying he got a 960 on the SAT and that he can't read. And it reminds me of when the governor of New York, when she made this comment about poor black kids in the Bronx.
Young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word a computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things. And I want the world open up to all of them, because when you have their diverse voices innovating solutions, young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word a computer is.
What?
Well, how about this one? The state of Washington said prospective black attorneys find it too difficult to pass the bar exam for the state of Washington. So if you graduated from an accredited law school, you no longer have to take the bar. Now, I resent that because there are enough fools practicing law, black and white, who don't need to be admitted to the bar because they don't know what the hell they're doing. Now you take one step away. It was a necessary step to ensure to the public that they were getting decent representation when they hired a lawyer. That's crazy. Or how about Oregon saying minorities, particularly black kids, the governor, female governor of Oregon says, because they have difficulty, we can't be required to teach math by requiring them to memorize multiplication and long division tables. and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. See, this is crazy. Or we don't need homework because it's too onerous to the student to have these extra burdens. This is an expectation of failure. It is absolutely ridiculous. And what he means is, as at one point about 50 years ago, most states had some requirement, something in their admissions requirements for the public colleges and universities, that if you scored over 1,000, you were qualified for admission to their college or university, or if not getting admitted, that was the cutoff. If you fell below 1,000, you weren't even considered. So that's the significance of what he's talking about. I was on several admissions commissions. So anyway, go ahead.
White liberals do have a habit of talking down or using less syllables talking to Black people. And it was a study. It was a 2018 Yale study. So let me play this clip here.
I used to be pretty woke. I had the TDS, the Trump derangement syndrome. I thought everybody who voted for Donald Trump was a racist. All that changed when I encountered a Yale study in 2018. The study found that there was a difference between how white liberals and white conservatives talk when they talk to Black people. And when I saw the headline, I was jubilant. We got 'em. That's what I thought. Turns out the opposite was true. The study found that when white liberals talk to Black people, they do something called presenting lower competence. They dumb down their vocabulary using fewer syllables than they do when they talk to white people. And white conservatives don't do this. I remember seeing the study and thinking with horror, and we liberals call conservatives racist? What could be more racist than the patronizing view that Black people need to be protected from our big vocabularies? Yet it was this patronizing view that minorities are oppressed and in need of saving that I could suddenly see was at play in much of the progressive worldview. It caused me to think, well, if I'm wrong about conservatives being racist, what else might I be wrong about? A lot, it turns out.
Let me give you an example of that. Two, one time when I was in law school, second year I was in law school, there was a debate over what was the predictor that would most accurately predict how a student would perform in law school. LSAT, law school aptitude test, or grade point average. So what they wound up doing was they published the grade point average for each student without putting a name up there, and they published every student's LSAT, LSAT score. And the one they put at the top, they indicated with a red arrow. This, by the way, is the highest score ever obtained by any student at UCLA or any member of the faculty that is served at this institution. Well, some clown comes talking to me, a white liberal, and he's saying, well, you Black people might get a GPA, but there's no telling what happens. But something as fundamental as these aptitude tests, you'll just never get there because you just don't have it. So he's pointing to this one with the red arrow. I say, you goddamn fool. I said, I'll bet you money that if we pull some strings, we can find out whose score that is. I'll bet you $100. And in those days, I worked as a Teamster, and I was glad to have gotten the raise up to $3.13 an hour a few years before. That's how little we worked for. So I bet this fool the $100, and I already knew the answer because I recognized the thing. And we went in, I said, you goddamn fool. Now you find out it was me. And what the devil that I am, look at my big afro and my beard and whatever. So you got a Black man that scored higher than any student that's ever been in this university law school in its entire history, and higher than any faculty members. Now go to hell. But that leads to the second one. When I came out of California and went to Tennessee at the beginning of the 70s, more than 50 years ago, we used to have a joke, which was nobody had ever seen a liberal white man or a white man in California admit that there was a black man who knew anything that he did not know better, except maybe how to play basketball. So the interesting thing is we joke that they'll always take it that a black woman knows a whole hell of a lot more than their women sometimes, but a black man has always got to be less informed, less wise, less educated, less knowledgeable about everything. But the interesting thing is in the South, white people would accept that you knew something better. Maybe that's from the slave tradition where there were slave experts and being cobblers, plumbers, bricklayers, masons, or whatever the case may be. And it's interesting that when I went back with the TV show, I said, you know, you're really something else. In Tennessee, I'm acknowledged as being knowledgeable about what I do on the bench. But around here, you've got some kid, 23 years old, who is one of your favorite lesbians around here that you just promoted up to being an executive from a file clerk because she had an affair with your wife, and she's got 2 years of junior college, but you send her in to tell me how to rule on the case. You can all go to hell. Now, see, that's just typical West Coast. So Newsom illustrates this white man who never ever know how anyway will acknowledge that somebody black knows anything. Whereas in Atlanta, you might find that somebody says he's a knowledgeable black man. I'll listen to him. I used to have, before I became a judge, I'd have white clients, doctors, lawyers, businessmen would have me represent themselves and their family and relatives and business associates who had criminal charges or something that required appearance in front of a jury. I'd handle it, but not in Tennessee, not in California. Not on the West Coast, not where it was liberal. That just didn't happen. And see what it is, it's unfair to everybody. They want to talk about hollering about racism, but they can't get free from it themselves. And Newsom shows it. He's like that Tourette syndrome person yelling the N word. He's got to behave that way.
Right.
Long story short.
Well, that's it, guys. Listen, thank you, Helamel, for the super chat. Appreciate you. A couple other people that sent in something. Yeah, Sylvia, thank you. Man Up Monday. Yeah, thank you so much, Sylvia. Love you pieces. I think I has another super chat. I'm not sure, but thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you all. And I will see you. Oh, I'm going live tomorrow night to stream the State of the Union. So, Judge, if you're around, hop on.
I will. And by the way, I've got do not disturb at all silence, all notices and everything. Nothing's supposed to come through.
Yeah, but the phone call from that hoe came through, but you
No, there wasn't any phone call from anybody.
well,
What's
I heard you tell her, I told you I was doing the show.
Oh, well, yeah, that one at the very beginning. But she
You tell her
didn't call.
next time she better pay attention because you told her you busy doing the show and she still called you anyway.
She didn't call me back. But I'm just saying at the top, several of the when I couldn't get back on, I'm getting a yellow banner that I took a screenshot of.
That's the
It just
Wi-Fi.
said,
Okay,
oops.
when you get the yellow banner, that's the Wi-Fi connection. So it's like you have to get a stronger Wi-Fi. But the bitch called you earlier. You tell her next time when I tell you something, she better listen and remember because you told her.
Well, yeah, there's that.
And she wasn't listening. So you need to straighten that out.
She's not a bitch, but anyway, I saw that one. Now that did happen, but you know, this other stuff.
When you get the yellow thing is the Wi-Fi. So you gotta get a stronger Wi-Fi because I get that sometimes and I have to upgrade my Wi-Fi.
Well, I've got 3 in the house, and what I have wind up doing is I got to jump back and forth between the 3 of them because one of them will stop working, and it'll say even on a phone call, it'll say unable to complete call, and then I'll just go back in and change the Wi-Fi to another one that I can get through. It's crazy.
But I'm telling you, tell your chick, because she one of your hoes. Tell that
I don't have hoes. I don't deal with
you got
hoes.
side pieces. Tell
Well,
your piece.
I don't even deal with side pieces.
Tell
They're
your
good
piece.
women.
Tell your chick she need to listen.
They're good church going women.
Yeah, the hell they are. Yeah, exactly. You
They
had your
are.
ass on
They
that
go
one.
to church on a regular
Y'all about
basis.
to get strike down right now.
They're good Christians.
Christian my ass.
What?
I said Christian my ass. You tell them damn chicks, I'm calling them hoes. Tell them hoes, bitch, you better listen when I tell you I'm working. Just like that. Tell them just like that.
I don't talk that
She
way.
ain't going nowhere. She ain't going nowhere.
I don't talk that way to
She ain't
women.
going nowhere because she knows she ain't gonna have another come up when
I don't ever talk that
when
way
you
to
check
women.
out, God forbid, when you check out, she ain't gonna have another come up. So tell her, bitch, when I tell you I'm working, don't call me.
Well, the women I deal with are not bitches, but anyway, it is a problem.
All right. Good
Now,
night, everybody. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you live tomorrow for the State of the Union. Bye. Say good
that
night.
ought to be interesting. By the way, have you seen Fox
We're still live,
television?
honey. We're still live. Say
Okay,
goodbye.
but it's interesting. Fox on their sites are asking on a poll, what do you think is going to be the main focus of his State of the Union address? By the way, that's required under the Constitution of the United States. It says on a regular annual basis, the president shall give effectively what we now call the State of the Union address. That's constitutionally
Y'all
required.
say good night.